a Texan counselor, and today I want to talk about an issue that came up yesterday, actually. This was the school shooting in Florida. I think it was in Broward County. I don't know exactly the name of the town. And just to kind of give you a bit of a mental health perspective, because of course, whenever there's shooting like this happens, the politics come up, all the standard issues come up, and so I kind of want to just give you my take on things, having worked with troubled teens before and living in a state like Texas that has had its share of shootings. In fact, probably the first modern mass shooting in America happened right here in Austin, Texas, up in the UT Tower. And also as a gun owner and a counselor and looking at all the issues and things. From what I can tell, from what I've read about the kid in question, I'm pretty sure he has what we call emotionally disturbed, emotionally disabled. There's different terms for this sort of thing. Of course, I've never talked to the kid. I don't know anything about him. I've never met him, so it's always dangerous to diagnose him. But I'm just kind of giving a preliminary assessment based upon what I've seen and what I've read so far. I hate to say it, but even just looking at his picture, he looks like he's probably slightly mentally disabled, mentally retarded. I don't know what the proper PC term is anymore. His cranium looks a little too small. His eyes seem to be a little too far apart. Ears are a little kind of big and droopy. These in themselves are not defining characteristics, but he has that look about him. Reading about his history, they've said that he has always been a disturbing child. He has always been obsessed with guns and violence. Apparently there were lots of complaints about him in school. He joined the JROTC program out there, probably because he wanted to be even more close to guns and that sort of thing. He was expelled. They never really said exactly why he was expelled. They just said that he was expelled, and probably it's due to some sort of violent or threats or something like that. And one report said that he had made a comment on a YouTube video that he said he was going to be a professional school shooter, and that this had been reported to the FBI, but they couldn't follow up on it, which I can't blame the FBI on this one. Someone makes a random YouTube comment. How are you supposed to know if it's even serious? And if it is serious, how are you supposed to find somebody? Not everybody puts their address on their YouTube videos and YouTube profiles. In fact, it's probably a good idea not to do that. So he had shown lots of signs of being violent, emotionally disturbed. Having worked with kids like this, they are just always trouble. They are obsessed with violence, obsessed with guns, obsessed with hurting people. One of my previous jobs was reading written essays from standardized tests. And what I would do, I would read the ones that someone had flagged as disturbing. And some of these were, and disturbing meant like they were reporting some sort of sexual abuse or physical abuse, or that they wanted to harm somebody. Really anything that whoever read the thing would flag would get sent to me, and I'd read through it and then kind of make a judgment on whether or not the school needed to be called. And some of these kids, I mean, the writing prompt could be anything as innocuous as, write about your favorite U.S. president and why, or whatever. And they would even start off well. I admire Abraham Lincoln because he freed all the slaves. And then at some point it starts getting into about some sort of violence, some sort of killing. And then the kid would just literally write, blood, death, murder, kill, rape, whatever. Because that's where their thoughts go. This is the sort of stuff that we make horror movies about, right? Serial killer writes these ranting emails or ranting notes and this crazy scrawl. This really happens. These people really exist. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if this boy was one of those kind of kids. There was talk of I I think his mother died in November, and he had to move in with somebody else, some other family members. I kind of wonder if that was the trigger, if that was what finally kicked it for him. Was his mother died. There's never been any mention of the father. I haven't read anything that they mention who the father is, if anyone even knows who he is, where he is, if this guy ever had a part of this kid's life. We keep hearing about things about psychotropic medications, psychiatric meds. I don't know if he was ever on any. He might not have been. I haven't seen any things where he got any kind of mental health treatment or that he was in special ed. A lot of times these are the sort of kids that get put into special education classes so that way they can kind of learn to, control their own emotions and their own motivations, and so they don't become so impulsive and so violent. I almost wonder if part of the other thing that has triggered him in this case was the fact that he was expelled. Because he was expelled, he probably doesn't have a high school diploma. That is going to greatly limit any options that he has, including joining the military. Remember, he was a part of the JROTC program. I wonder if one of the things that he wanted to do was join the military, and they wouldn't take him because he doesn't have a high school diploma. There was a time where any jackass could join the military. Nowadays, the military's become so technologically advanced, so precise, that the bad old days of you just take anybody who's willing to pull a trigger and stick them on the front lines, and that's okay. The Marines do not take people with high school who do not have a high school diploma. Speaking to one recruiter some years ago about that, and he said the logic of the Marine Corps is if you cannot get a high school diploma, which you basically get just for showing up, then you're not going to handle 3 months of boot camp. You're not going to handle a month of infantryman training. You're not going to handle all the other technical aspects. You're not going to follow through on these sort of things. And so from their mindset, a person without a high school diploma is not eligible unless they have some really high ASVAB scores or a really good story or something else. This kid probably has none of that. Now, none of this is meant to, of course, excuse his behavior. There is no excuse for hurting another person, unless it's like self-defense. That's about it. Someone attacks you, you attack them back. That's called for. The fact that this kid was probably abused as a child, the fact that he was probably mentally deficient and did not get to serve mental health care that he needed, these are not excuses. The fact that he was expelled, these are not excuses. What I am trying to do is give an explanation that there is oftentimes deeper reasons behind what's going on. It's not as simple as get rid of the guns, get rid of the AR-15s, psych meds make people crazy, spank your children more often, hug your children more often. In times like these, we want those nice, simple answers because our emotions are high, and that's what our emotions want. So they want a nice, simple answer so that we don't have to think too hard. Because when our emotions are running high, we don't think very well. I'll make a whole video on emotions and how they affect our logic. But in this case, this is what usually happens. And this is also why there has been no movement on gun control in this country, is because a shooting happens, Columbine happens, Sandy Hook happens, and now Broward County happens, Florida happens, Texas, we have plenty of them here. A shooting happens, everyone's emotions get high up, and then everybody starts getting entrenched in their political positions, and nobody really makes any movement. And once we actually sit down and start looking at crafting a law, we realize it's not really that simple. We could pass a bill tomorrow that says ban all AR-15s, and then they'll just change the name to AR-22s, and then now those are legal. We see that a lot with gun control stuff. The gun control debate is basically over in this country. There are more guns in America than there are Americans in America. So the notion we're going to ban all the guns, we're going to get rid of all the guns, it's just not going to happen. It's impractical. And for that to happen would require something that would probably trigger a civil war. It would require the military going from house to house and finding all the guns and then taking them, and that would trigger a civil war. And not to mention the fact that most people would hide the guns. The people with most guns, the ones who live out in the country, they'll just bury their guns in a box under their garden, and then when the military leaves, they'll pull them out. So it's not this nice simple answer. It's not guns. It's not psych meds. It's not piss poor parenting. It's not bad schooling. It's a mixture of all of these things. And the sad truth is, and this is what's the hardest pill to swallow, the sad truth is these sort of things are just going to happen. And all we can do is be ready for them. Be ready for them mentally, emotionally, and physically. Being ready to prepare to defend yourself if necessary. Be prepared for the trauma when it comes up. Be prepared for these sort of things. Because bad things are going to happen. And there's no getting around it. Why are bad things happening so much? I don't know. I don't know if they're even really happening more often or if we're just hearing about it, because 24-hour news cycle can really grind through this stuff, and social media will keep just talking about it endlessly. But anyway, I hope that this was some sort of explanation or something that kind of helped give some insights in what happened. And unfortunately, not much insight on what we can do to stop it. I think it's just this kid sounds like someone who fell through the cracks. And maybe the best thing we can do is to kind of start sealing up some of those cracks to where kids get caught better. And kids like this get better mental health treatment and that sort of thing. But anyway, I hope to talk to you again later, and hopefully on much better news. Bye.